I have to think about 300 people. How am I affecting? How am I proactively managing, training those folks?
The industry's constantly evolving, right?
Hmm.
How do you stay up to date?
I mean, snapping turtles to fox to you name it. I mean, you get involved in some pretty hairy situations in a technical role.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Beyond the Pest podcast. I am your co-host, Jennifer Sweeney Ingram.
And on the other one, Michael Thome. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing Jay Everitt, the technical director for Rottler Pest Control out of St. Louis, Missouri. So looking forward to having a great conversation with Jay and learning how and why he ended up in the industry.
Sure, thank you.
All right,
He said, I have to align the mics. I didn't know I had to align no mics. So, anyways,
The what?
How many mics do you have, man?
I don't know. I guess there was 3 on there, and it was a lot. It wouldn't let me get off the one that. So
Well, that's one mic that you know of. Just watch what you say in that office from now on, my man. There's
No
clearly
kidding,
some
yeah.
microphones in there.
Yeah, talking to.
Welcome, Jay.
Hi, y'all.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see y'all. Yeah, we missed y'all. We had a great trip. Everything was good. So kind of
All
uneventful.
about it.
Yeah, it was. There was. I guess there was about 12 or 13 of us. But we got to go. I didn't go the last day over to Pelicis. I had to get back out of town myself. But I had a plane ticket problem, and then I wound up driving to Atlanta from St. Louis, which isn't fun. But it all worked out. So
Wow.
Wait, how long of a drive was it?
8 hours 45 minutes. So pretty simple. No traffic. Just
No.
until I got to Atlanta,
Yeah.
obviously. But I got out the door early and got down there mid-afternoon, and we all went to dinner, like we always do, and then
Yeah.
we went over to over to see the dogs, the bulldogs. We got to see some black fly, research going on. Elmer Gray, the gentleman, the professor over there, they had a simulated stream, and they were testing all the different, Bacillus, all the BTI stuff against them, and then they did some mosquito work in there as well. But the black fly stuff was pretty interesting. So yeah,
Interesting.
we've had a lot of problems, here in the Midwest. All this rain, I'm sure you guys have
Yeah.
too. But it was, the golf courses and the sports fields and all the high school football stuff or baseball stuff that's going on. They're all complaining about it, and there's not a lot we can do. So
Yeah. It's not like you can go and treat because it's the muddy riverbeds and the stream beds and
that's
stuff like that
right.
where
Yeah,
these things are
running
breeding, right?
water.
So
Right. Yeah.
it's not like we can go and just make applications to that, right? That's
Yeah.
not really an
Yeah.
option. So
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Jay, you've been with Rottler for a long time.
30 years.
And so I'm curious to know, just to start off, what is your role, first of
Mm-hmm.
all? And then,
Yep.
give us an idea of maybe how many employees or, commercial, residential, what
Yeah.
your company looks like.
Sure. So I got started with Rottler in 1994. So I've been with them 30. It'll be 35 years next month, or 31 years next month.
Congrats.
Started out as a technician, basic technician. There's 12 employees then. We have north of 300 now, just a little over a 300. I went through every part of the business. I started as a tech. I went into supervisory role pretty quickly. The Rottlers had never had a supervisor, and we started growing. I mean, like crazy once Centricon kind of hit, and then you had Termidor right behind it. So our termite business has always been big for them. So 95% residential business, 5% commercial back then. We're 65 residential, 35 commercial now. So
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. So
How many states are you in?
we cover 3, so Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois. There's 13 offices with a corporate office. We cover just about everything through the states. We're on the eastern side of Kansas. We don't go over into the middle of Kansas, but and then same thing on the west side of Illinois. So Missouri just being in the middle, we kind of take care of both cities from there. So Kansas City, and then we've got Metro East and Fairview Heights and we get as far over as Effingham, which is midway, but that's some commercial work that we do.
So Jay, you said you've been in the industry obviously a long time. I don't know many folks that grew up and said, "Hey, I want to be in pest control," right? Unless you work for like a family-owned
Right.
company. So what actually brought you to Rottler in the first place?
Well, great story. I had an uncle that was working for Mike and Gary, and he was a firefighter. That's what I always wanted to be. So I went to school to get a paramedic's license. I was a medic for all of 2 weeks. Was involved, responded to. I wasn't involved, but I was involved. I responded to a bad MVA or motor vehicle accident, and that situation. They can teach you how to keep people alive, but they don't teach you the emotional side of taking care of children in a bad car accident. And that's kind of, I went on a little bit of a leave from that job based on it kind of messed with me a little bit. And my uncle working here was like, "Hey, come try this for a little bit." And here I am, almost 31 years later. I've always been a person that when I get into a job, I try to understand every part of it. The medic side was interesting to me. Prior to that, I was in sports, retail sports, moved around with a company with that even, and then I wound up here. But I fell in love with this business just based on the fact I was the kid in the woods, chasing snakes around, playing with the bugs. And then, I fell into it and got lucky in the fact that I went to work for a company that was growing, and they were very interested in helping us all do well. And that's really what's kept me here all these years. So.
I think it's cool that, of course, none of us really plan to be in the industry, but it seems like all of us can think of something in our past and our childhood often where we go, that does make sense for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I mean, it's. I feel very fortunate that things aligned. I could have worked. My father-in-law, had a printing business. He tried to recruit me a couple times. I had other people say, "Oh, go back to the fire service. It's a good it's a good business," and it was, and it is. I don't know what it was about this. I've never regretted a day to come to work. I've always been happy with what I've done. And there again, the Rottlers have really supported, getting me out there on the technical side. So I'm in a technical role now, but I mean, like I said, I did all the management all the way up through operations roles. And this one really just aligned with teaching people and learning about the business and the entomology side of it. There again, I'm not I don't have a university degree in entomology. I've passed the ACE test, great, whoopee, but I'm also the guy that the Rottlers say, "Hey, I know you know how to take care of the bugs and control things," and there's a whole soft skill side, the customer side that I get involved with. At a high level. So, if you're talking to the folks at Tyson or, the sports teams or, hospitals, whatever, I generally get involved in those type of services and, write SOPs and training pieces for that. And that's kind of, if that wraps it up for you to
But like you
understand how I
said, you
got here.
never are tired of learning. Like it seems like, I mean, you started with 12 technicians, now to 300.
Yeah.
That's so much growth. And
hmm
it's a lot of growth in you having
hmm
to pivot that many times. And
Yeah.
what a cool process.
Yeah, I have to pinch myself quite often to go, wow, how in the heck did you wind up here? And then I had a few of those mindful moments when I'm at the University of Georgia this week. It's like, how did I wind up here? And I'm surrounded with some of the smartest people in the industry. And they're out there talking about the Latin names, as you said, Jen, the names of these things. And, give me the common name. And I could kind of figure out where and how to find them and then go from there with it. But it is interesting to be around all of you academia folks. And it humbles me, and it also makes me appreciate where I'm at. So,
I definitely have imposter syndrome myself. But
yeah.
I think all of us together, we have that I'm going to learn as much as I possibly
Yep.
can about this thing
Yep.
attitude to be
Yep.
in the
For
technical
sure.
world.
For sure.
I think that's the great thing about like every company work because we all work for different size companies, right?
hmm
And the technical guy in each company is a little bit different, right? It's not a cut
Hmm.
and paste job description. What I do is different than what Jay does. What you know, it's just
Right.
it's a little bit different. So how did you take the leap from being technician, sales, operations to move into that technical? Was there a template? Did the Rottlers have a plan for it, or was it kind of like,
Um,
Jay's the guy?
yeah, that's a great question. It was interesting. We had just gotten to about 100 employees, and I was, like I said, I was kind of the operations person. But there again, you had a Gary Rottler and a Mike Rottler that were really operations folks, and they were dealing with marketing and HR and things like that. I was kind of running offices, multiple, and it got to the point where we were like, hey, we need to really focus on our training program, because if we're going to grow at the 10, 15x, whatever that is, annually, percentage wise, we're going to have a pretty robust training program. And I revamped, I redid the entire thing. As before, it was you went and jumped in the truck with Gary or myself, and we'd run you through, hey, this is what it takes here, here, here. And we just, it caused me to go formal with our training. And that was, 2007, 2008 is when I really took that leap into a technical role. And it was, like I said, there was about 100 employees. And it was needed because we knew in the future we're going to be putting on 10, 15 people annually, and you have to teach those people, and you need it so you don't miss something. And that's the biggest part. Is I just wanted to put it on paper so that I knew to have that conversation to walk them through it. And then we started building it where we had quizzes and scorms, and we had an LMS system, and I say we came to the big time. So. We've seen a lot of companies like the Copasan Technical Committee out there that had very formal training programs. I decided that was going to be my next, 4 or 5 year task, if you will, to get that up and going. So,
Wow. And so does Rottler do acquisitions as well, or have you all
yeah,
not had to do that? Okay.
yes. So, I've been involved, I've been involved in about 6 or 7 of them. I get involved on the due diligence side to come in and meet with the people prior. So I sign my NDAs and I get in there and I come in with a plain shirt. I just want to know who they are, and what, kind of how they do things. And then we bring that information back and go, all right, well, this is what our training program is going to have to be in order to get them onto our SOPs or our protocols. So,
So yeah, I was going to ask what that's like, because
mhm,
obviously every company has its own culture, and
yep,
I assume that if you're going to acquire a company, you want them to have kind of a similar culture to yours already.
yep.
So do you tailor some of the trainings then, like once you meet with them to
Yeah.
kind of get them on the same page?
Yeah, once we've kind of, we've signed papers and we own it. That is, we just run through our, our training system. It's a 4-week class. You've got 8 hours of classroom training once a week times 4 weeks, so there's 32 hours of classroom, and then the rest of it's all field based. And we built that way to kind of line up with the Missouri Department of Ag's kind of curriculum, and it's done us fairly well. Now, I will tell you that there's a new regime, a younger regime coming in now that is, they're working through building a new version, something that's simpler, quicker, more video based, audio based, where mine was a lot of lecture and role play and talk through things, and then be out in the field and show them. And I've been out of the training side for about a year now, year and a half. We have 2 training specialists, even a content manager now that we've kind of put in place, and they're trying to build it a little bit different, but same bones, but just building it a different way that they can absorb it and get up to speed even quicker than what we have in the past. So we're now putting on 80, 85 people a year versus, like I said, that 10 to 12. So there's a difference there. So you gotta really ramp them up, and it's gotta be pretty robust with all the different services that we provide. So.
So Jay, what is kind of your day to day now? What does that look like?
I'm working on building. So a couple years back, I put an org chart together with this training specialist, a safety, a fleet person, a content manager, a regulatory person. Currently, we've got about 4 or 5 of those folks working underneath our ops person. I'm working on the big piece, the quality assurance piece now. But it's also, I'm out evaluating our expertise, if I could say that. I'm evaluating our 30 service managers. I work with our regional managers, our 8 regional managers. So I will do a technical fellowship meeting. Actually, I have one this Friday. And that's the high level stuff. It'll be audited facilities, it'll be entomology, it'll be chemistry. I'll talk about product selection. So I manage purchasing products, quality assurance, and kind of oversee or at least edit the training that's coming from the other folks within the company. So,
Cool.
So you were talking about product selection. I think that we're the industry's constantly evolving, right?
mm-hmm.
How do you stay up to date? You're the technical guy. You're the one that everybody's coming to, going, Jay, what should I be using? How do I follow? What are the resources that you're using now to kind of stay up to date with what's going on in the industry?
I'll be honest, Pest World is probably my number one place that I go to kind of find and look for new. Now, granted, being in it 30 years and dealing with all the reps for 30 years, they'll call me and say, hey, I've got something I'd like you to test, or can you put this out there and give me some feedback? And I'm one that'll give a report. Like if, BASF sends me some Redesco, I'm gonna go above and beyond to get them the information they're looking for. And I don't have a qualm with telling them it's too expensive based on, Dinotefuron's amazing. Why do we need to put another one in there? So I'm that guy that, I just no holds bar. And for our business, it doesn't fit, but I'll give it a good shake, and I'll always know that product's there. So if I've got a job that I need something, let's just say hot, I know that's probably not the perfect term to use, but we could wordsmith that a little better. But the idea is
the clean out version of whatever it is, right?
Yes, right.
Yes.
So I'm very involved with the reps. I try looking and reading as much as I can in that regard. I do pay attention to our publications, PCT and Pest Management Magazine, and there's always something in there. But I usually have the product prior to it hitting the PCT and have an idea. Where it comes into problems, or where we have problems, is when my people find it before I do, and then they're always wanting it. They're, I gotta have it. It's I'm sure it's the cure-all. Well, let me tell you why we don't use it, and I try to explain it to them, in a manner of a business decision. Mm-hmm. To bring a new product in, it's got to be pretty special, and it's got to obviously match up with safety, costs, and just effectiveness. So those are kind of the 3 big things we look at.
That's one area where I need to get better is, just having a system where I give products to the techs and not just kind of forget about it, but,
Right.
make a note and follow up with these people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really bad about that. Do you have like a system that you use? 'Cause I feel like the reps call me and they're like, hey, Jen, how did it go? And I'm like, oh yeah, let me get with my service managers and find out
Yeah,
for you.
right. Well, the first advice I would say is give it to one person, don't give it to a bunch. Because then you'll always remember, hey, Lance is my guy. Lance is up and coming technical person. Lance helps me on my technical fellowship meetings. He helps me build criteria or curriculum for that fact, and he can deliver it. Lance gets a little bit on his I want this kind of soap op sometimes, but he's the person that I go to and I know I can test. So if VM is making me a new station, I'm going to give it to him. If I've had probably 5 or 6 things show up. VM's got a new remote monitoring system that just hit my desk the other day, and he'll be that person testing this too. So tech savvy, chemistry savvy, entomology's got some of that background. So that's the only advice I have to that is give it to one person, and then ask them. I need a fair shake with this. I need you to put it in multiple places, not just one. If we're thinking commercial, I need to understand what you're doing with it there. If we're going residential, I need to understand what you're doing with it there as well. So, but I'll give feedback on mixing, just as it would fit into my protocols. Where would it fit if we were going to take it on, and give them some ideas on maybe where they might use it someplace else that they haven't, marketed it to me, as far as that goes.
So you'd mentioned the guys that wanted to try something new. One of the things that I think we struggle with, especially as you get like larger and access to more shows, you got the folks that like they have their go-to, right? Like I've always used this. And I'll sometimes get out in the field and they'll say, well, that's not the way we've always done it, or that's not what we've always used, right? My answer is, well, if that worked, then I probably wouldn't be here at this account with you, right?
Right.
How do you get the folks that are this is the ant bait that I use, this is the residual I use? How are you trying to like manage product rotation and get some folks to try some new stuff, especially these guys that have some tenure in the industry?
Yeah, well, I will tell you that I have as many as 212 products, SKUs in my system that people could go, if they had it, they could use it, and it would be in our system and we wouldn't have to worry about it. I've narrowed it down to about 28 of what I call our approved material list. We build a chemical reference sheet. It's a spreadsheet. We put nice pictures on it with the pest. We put the active ingredient in it. We put the rate, how much you should be using per gallon or ounces or bait placements, whatever it is. And I try to always say, try to follow this first, or tell me when I'm coming to this account with you. If you're asking me out to this account, tell me what you've done. And I kind of get the story from them. And it's funny because Mike, when I ask that question, they go, "Oh, well, maybe I tried something different." Or, I mean, it's almost like I have to get their squirrels to start turning, and they answer. They actually put themselves in their own they put themselves into trouble with not following our protocol. Yep. Well, there's a problem. Okay, well, I got clover mites and I use Demand or I use Talstar or whatever they're using. Well, is that on that list? Where did you see that on the list? Is kind of the way I put it. I don't want to make them feel bad. I'm not chewing on anybody as the technical director. I think folks around here know that I'm here to help you. I'm here to teach. I'm here to coach and give you ideas on how to do your job better. There again, I can lead you to the water, but if you're not going to drink it, that's your problem. And then I'll let the service managers and the regional managers and op managers have those kind of conversations with them. But let's try this. Let's move on. Let's try this, and let's put an action plan in place that until they're gone, you're coming back every 3 days and kind of go from there. So.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Like you want it to be like, no, cool, Jen's coming out to help me, or no, Jay's coming out to help me. We got this, right? You never want it to be an I gotcha situation where like, oh, I don't want Jen or Jay or Mike to be involved in this. We want to be the folks that they come to and go, hey, man, help me solve this, right?
Well, I'm at that point where they don't want me out. Based on what it costs to bring myself or either you two out there. I have to have layers, and I have to make sure that those layers understand it. And that's part of the, we were always training at the technician side of it, when in reality we should have started at the regionals to the service manager we even have a mentor group. And then we're now creating this technical fellowship that I have to have a guy or person, guy's not the right word, person that I can, sorry, Jen, a person that can go and be the technical specialist in a hospitality world or a multi-housing unit or whatever, because it's not feasible to run Jay, 3 hours to a hospital to figure out a forward fly problem. And better yet, when I get there, you better have the equipment we need to do that job, right? So, sorry,
It's
Jen.
so cool that, growing as big as you have, you feel when that new role needs to take place. It's like you just start to feel like your time just has been pulled in so many directions that you're like, I got to get a guy for this or a girl.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, Mike's always said, Jay, you're one, and when we're doing 40,000 services a month, there's no way you can keep up with that. Granted, I look at reports. I have a special report that anytime a second callback comes in, I look at it and then I start investigating, and I actually have another layer now even doing that as well, just to take some of that off. So I have to think about 300 people. How am I proactively managing, training those folks to not be bogged down with 1,000 phone calls or 1,000 requests to say, I need Jay to come out here and figure out this problem or that problem. So, but there's not too many that, and I'm sure you guys haven't come across either, that you've been involved with that you can almost answer it without even going. Well, go back there and check this, or check for the moisture, or check this. A lot of it we try to head off so that I don't have to go out. But I feel like I'm being successful when I'm not out running around. I don't have to go to the Busch stadiums, the large facilities, the soccer stadiums, Tyson Chicken. When things are kind of under control, I'm pretty happy. So I know I'm kind of doing what I'm supposed to do.
And we love those accounts. The commercial is so fun. So
Hmm.
that's one thing I wanted to ask you about because you
Yep.
started majority residential, and
Hmm.
then now that what did you say, you're 65% residential now?
Yes, 35 commercial. Yep.
Yes. So do you find that that's where the fun is? Like that you wanted to grow into that sector,
Um,
or does it
you know,
challenge you more?
we were to, well, for me, I was tired of running around chasing roaches for 65, $75 a month. To me, that doesn't make sense. That's not a good business plan. So when we started getting into the audited facilities, you're doing weekly pest control. There's a lot of documentation, equipment. That spawned into a lot of other things. Large, high-level rodent work, fumigation work. That's something we kind of pride ourselves on here as well. Is we're capable of doing large structural fumigations, and have been involved in a lot of large ones. Consulted with a few as far as that goes, but that part of the business we're kind of turning away from now. So because it does draw out the admin folks here that yeah, it's nice and pretty, you got a $500,000 worth of fumigation, but the liability that half a million, half of that money was product, and you got a $250,000 in product that could go bye in the wind, and it's just a lot of risk for not as much reward as we want. And we want to focus on our reoccurring business, focus on our residential business, which is really good. And in our markets, we're some of the markets on the outstate stuff, we got into it for the commercial side because of Copasan, and now we're trying to rebuild that into a residential business. So Kansas City market, Joplin market, Illinois market, those are all areas we're working on the residential piece. So
Jay, what's your favorite pest to control?
um to control, that's a great question. I really like when I do the right thing for honeybees. We've done extrication, we've removed, we've saved, we've preserved. In historical buildings, I like to get involved in those. There again, a lot of work, a lot of labor, a lot of construction that gets involved. There's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place first, but it's nice when I can say, hey, I saved that 20-year hive that was up in a historical building. I got a preservation group involved. I got construction folks that are capable of taking all this limestone down. Those are some of the things that make me feel really good. Now, when it comes to residential stuff, when I can get a brown recluse, a real bad brown recluse problem under control, and give those folks peace of mind, those are all also things that I like to play around with. I like the odd things. I've trapped beaver. We do bat work. All that weird stuff is fun, but there again, it's not reoccurring business. I like if we can just keep doing this residential thing and take care of some problems, and it keeps the profitability right where it needs to be for all the profit shares, and it keeps me happy. So
Well, it sounds like Rottler isn't afraid to say yes to trying something. Like
that's
somebody
right.
says they have a beaver, you're like, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
We'll try.
yeah.
You
When that
you
comes
you
from
messed up setting a body hugging trap like one time. Like that was the most terrifying experience of my entire life. Was doing some muskrat
contact,
work and
yep,
using
yep.
the body hugging traps. I was like, nah, this is not for me. I tried it. You know what I mean? But no, I'm with you. We don't need to do this again.
Yeah, it's interesting when you get out there and you get stuck in the mud up to your waist, and waders when you're setting those traps, or you have to have somebody come literally pull you. That happened to me one time. I've had the trap get popped on my hand, and there's all kind. Snapping turtles to fox to you name it. You get involved in some pretty hairy situations in a technical role. Chasing a coyote down a chute. Broken leg. Yeah. So yeah. These are all the scary stories we've had. So, but
Oh my God. What is a body hugging trap? What is this?
it's a body. Well, it's a kill trap. And
So it
it's
sounds like
basically,
nice.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
hugging, but
It sounds nice. It's
really
not
tightly.
nice.
Yeah, it tugs real tightly.
oh
So
my
yeah,
gosh.
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah,
Oof.
But you usually use it for like beaver, muskrat,
yeah.
any of those sort of
Squirrel. Yeah,
invasives. Yeah, that especially as they get into like we did a lot of work with retention ponds for or like dikes around petroleum facilities that you can't have penetrations into that if there was a spill. We've done some work with them, and yeah, like I said, that you hit it, Jen. Like whenever there's something new, they're like, just call Jen or call Mike or call Jay. They'll
Right.
figure it out, right? So that's our job. We go out and try to figure it out.
That's right.
And you're
That's
like, no,
right.
we're not going to do this. Like,
Right.
this is terrifying. There are people that specialize in that. Let's subcontract the
Right.
work to them,
Yeah,
right?
that's my mentality anymore is how do we make money at it,
Yeah.
and I'm a little bit different than some of the, and there again, I'm more business driven. I draw the pest part of it too, but I've always been driven on the business side of it. We have to
Yep.
be able to make money at it. There's three people, right? The employee, the company, and the customer all have to do well by it, and that motto has been pushed down to us for all the years I've been here, and it works. And the Rottlers, they understand that, and they actually have taught us that as well. So,
Jay, you mentioned Lance
hmm
as being like your go-to guy, which
yep,
I mean, mentorship is so important in our
hmm
industry, and like being able to see that somebody is really interested in something and not just have them say, "Hey, I really want to try this product," or "I'm really interested," but like, let's forge a path for you. Let's make it
hmm
happen.
yep,
Does Rottler have like a mentorship program, or do you guys have a way
yeah.
of like finding that in people?
Yeah, we took, you know, th- there was a time when we profiled a lot of our employees as far as just tasks, as what are they good at? Communication, this. The two folks that we have now currently were natural teachers, let's just say, and my role, which was now being done by three others, it's become more complicated, and it was causing challenges, and I was even working with our marketing group, just editing stuff that was getting put on the website, all the sales stuff that comes through, and what happened was they started freeing me up, and I assume they figured out that I can do better and bigger, better things when I'm not bogged down with these little bitty things, and in turn the mentorship, the development piece, this side of the business is it's been a slow process because it's easier to develop a salesperson that's going to bring in a couple $100,000 a month or every other month. That's where you think you put your focus on training, and then on the technician side, just to take care of the basic stuff. Now, this is something I'm just kind of trying to do because I know inevitably down the road we're going to have these people, and Dan supports it, so it's not like I'm going rogue and I'm teaching and developing positions within the company to help me. It's more of it's not step one, step two, step three. It's more of a hey, come support me, and you're going to be my first person that I suggest if we do put on another technical person or another technical role within the company. So we're looking for a media person. We're actually looking for a PhD in entomologist to kind of handle the high level stuff,
Cool.
and then kind of go from there. But the internship for obviously Upmatic, I'm interested in what that's going to look like and how things come out of that. So we're obviously at the beginning stages of it, but
Yeah, so for
excited about it.
people who want to know about that, UPMTC, our group, put out an internship, and so
Right.
quite a few of us representing our companies. It's available. You can go onto the UPMTC website, and I think it's right there.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody that's in school for entomology or interested in an entomology internship, go on our website, check it out. I'm excited too. We haven't gotten anybody yet,
Yeah.
so I'm eagerly waiting.
Yes, us as well.
Cool.
So, yeah, I don't know if Jen has more questions. I have one that I have asked. Do you have like a welcome to the industry moment? Like I talk about when I was a technician and I was doing some work at downtown Cleveland, and I was working as a low ceiling, and I pulled some drywall to look up there, and like American cockroaches rained down on me. That was my okay, dude. You're
Yeah.
in pest control moment. Like, do
Yeah.
you have a like okay, I'm in this now. Like, what's the moment?
Um, let's see. Boy, I tell you, it would have to probably be with Gary Rottler. I had probably rode with him for, golly, probably 4 or 5 months before I was ever let out on my own. And there again, 12 employees. They had 4 that were in a lawn route, and they had, another 3 that were on a pest route. So it was kind of an interesting moment in the fact that Gary Rottler takes me out with him wherever we go, and whether it was climbing up in an attic or chasing a squirrel around a pew in a church, that was the church pew chasing a squirrel.
That's hilarious.
Gary's got it pinned down with a cardboard box, and he hands me something and says, "Discharge that animal." I'm like, "Have you not heard about the "Thou shalt not kill"? I'm in church. I'm a Catholic. I'm a good Catholic guy, good Christian. But as he said, he's like, "Jay, the congregation is running out of here. They can't, they're not allowed to have services." So the if you say the switch clicked, that's probably when it did. Chasing a squirrel, and this thing's running up him as he's coming up the steps, and I'm like, I don't know if this is for me or not. But the one thing I will say that wildlife is kind of an interesting thing in our pest control world. I got sprayed twice in 1 week from a skunk, and that almost made me leave this industry because 95 degrees. We only had vans back then, and this thing's in the back of the van, and I smell. I mean, the smell.
Yeah.
And it's 1,000x what it is if you drive by a skunk, but if you get sprayed by one. So probably wildlife would be the way there, chasing a squirrel and then getting sprayed a couple times. I figured if I could get past that, there's not too much that can't get me out of this business. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
Jay, you've been you're a long tenured employee.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it about Rottler? What keeps you in your role? What keeps you there?
The Rottlers put my needs ahead of theirs 99.9% of the time. And they did things to help me become successful. Granted, I have to do it, but they also supported it and introduced me to a lot of people out in the industry. As far as this technical folks, this groups that we've been hanging out with, Copasan Technical Committee and now the Urban Pest Management Technical Committee, I have to give a lot of credit to Jim Sargent, who invited me in. And there again, I felt like the imposter. I didn't feel I was even capable, but Jim was like, we need all types of people in this group, and everybody says they know your name, you need to be in this group. And I was like, well, I hope to do what I can with it. And I've as you said before, this group has it gives you infinite resources. If they don't know, they can find somebody that knows, and that's the beauty of our group as far as that goes. And I've been very fortunate to have a lot of people help me get to where I am today. So
Awesome. Did you feel like they gave you a chance to mess up as well?
I don't like to disappoint people. Knock on wood. I'm sure there's been moments they've been disappointed, but typically there again, I'm sure you two are the same. If somebody's going to call you and say, "Hey, call Jen," they can figure it out. And if it's a Friday night at 7:00 at night, the owner knows that the buck stops with me. That's always been my attitude. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do whatever's necessary to get it under control or take care of the problem, and I'm going to follow it all the way to the end. And in the technical role, I think that's a great way to be, or a great way to think, and it will open a lot of doors for you.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
I'm still kicking myself, not really, but when I was a tech, I had a master's degree in entomology, and starting as a tech, I'm like, oh, I actually know nothing about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I remember this lady that brought me into her front yard, and she said, "Hey, are these ants over here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think it's ants." She
Mm-hmm.
says, "Aren't I covered for ants?" And I went, "Yeah, yeah, I'll see what I can do about that." It was
Right.
earthworms.
Oh.
And so to this day,
Right.
it's just,
Yeah.
it's so fun, and it's never a dull day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the cycle of our business, I always think about the 90s. We're coming off of the end of termiticides, good termiticides. You had the Dursbans, the Equities, all those, Biflex, and then all of a sudden these baits start coming into play, and then you get Centricon, you get Termidor, and really over the last, 15, 20 years past that, there hasn't been really anything crazy that's kind of come into our industry. But I think that when I first got in, there was a little bit. I didn't want to be a stereotype bug sprayer. I was a little embarrassed by it, but I figured out quickly that this industry and this position and the things we do are very, very important. And I think MPMA even had like an 8-minute video that they put out about, we don't always get the credit. And I started taking some pride in that. I mean, I was coming from a medical industry trying to get into that to do the right thing. And then I turned into that. I do the right thing here. And I think it's just as effective. And there again, that's the pride side of this that I don't think we all ever think about. But I definitely have. I have to think about it that way. And now 300 people, I have to teach them on how to be safe and do the right thing to protect the company, let alone themselves and our customers. So there's a lot of pride in that as well. And there again, like we talked about earlier, I never thought I'd ever be sitting here where I am today. Us talking through why or how'd you get here, but I'm fortunate to know all you folks, and it's exciting. So.
Any last thoughts, Mike?
No, I think that was great, Jay. It's funny. I remember one of the first conversations you and I had was me joining UPMTC and looking at you and telling you, like, I don't feel like I belong here. And you were like, nope, man, came up the same way you did. You belong here just like I do,
Come on, yeah.
And you have been, obviously we have a ton of amazing people in that group, but, you were one of the first ones that 100% made me feel like I belonged in that room. And I will always be thankful for that. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with Jen and I today. It's a great story, and I think that there's a lot for the folks in the industry that want to get to where you are. There's a lot of takeaways that there's not just one path, right? There are options to get there, and I think you showed that today. So thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you guys. I'm very humbled by that. I appreciate you saying that. I'm not a person that takes those things very lightly. I mean, I get emotional about that. So I appreciate you saying that, Mike. So anyhow.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jay.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, if there's anything else I can do, please let me know.
We know you're
Will do.
there.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks, Jay.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Welcome to the first episode of the Beyond the Past
Beyond the
podcast.
Pest, yay, right? So, um,
We'll definitely put that in there.
I think so. We definitely got to get some of this in here, right? Perfect. Cool.
Something.
I like it. We'll figure something out of that.